everybody, and welcome back to the I Don't Know Running podcast, where we share our experiences that make running fun and sometimes not so fun. I'm Lewis, and I am a DIY home repair reno / trying to get runs in ultra runner.
That made sense somehow. And I'm Mitch. I think we're officially in third winter now.
Oh my gosh. No kidding. I could not believe Thursday.
I ran in the rain. It was awful.
Oh, because you ran in the morning.
Yeah.
You ran in the rain.
No, ran in the rain Wednesday. And then Thursday before, we missed the snow. And then I was going to do a second run at night. And I'm pulling out of work because I had friends that were, getting together. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm going home. Friday was awful.
So I'm doing a lot of home repair right now and things like that. So I did not get out this week.
Didn't hurt your feelings.
The thing of it, it did. I had all intentions, like twice this week, to get out. And for one reason or another, I could not get out. And then even yesterday, you texted and you're like, hey, meet up at Rainbow Grill. And I'm like, you know what? I want to get home, get a run in. Well, at the same time, I was planning to install a new floor in one of our rooms, which meant stopping at the store, picking up the flooring, going, getting home, unloading, and then at that point, I'm in like work mode. I want to get this done so that I can move on. Right?
I see it still tore up though. So you didn't
It is half installed. Well, not half, about a quarter, 1/3 installed. Carpet is out. We have the new flooring about a third in. I did not get out and get a run in. I actually am upset about that though. Like before, I was just like, hey, it's just no big deal.
We ran in Holland this morning. I should have texted you that because all you got to do is do a couple loops.
I know, but I could have done that here. I was going to jump on the treadmill twice, but I am so like, I want to get that part of the house like put back together. And so life events, man, life events get in the way often, especially when you run like I do. Like when you run like you do in the morning, it's hard for stuff to get in the way at 4 a.m.
True, because that's the first thing I do in the day. So I do, when I was running at night, I would let stuff get in the way too easily. So switching to the morning, you don't get in the middle of anything.
I don't even think that it's you let stuff get in the way too easily.
But it does.
It just does. Life happens. Like you have to take care of the home, right? Mm-hmm. So, well, anyway, so that was my week. Winter's back, which sucks. I was actually really looking forward to nice temperatures again.
I know the next part of Michigan weather is the spring of deception, is what I hear. So we're gonna get another fall spring, and then we're gonna get nailed again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's face it. It is only mid-February.
I know, but it really messed with my mental health this week.
Oh, I know, because we had such warm temperatures. But yeah, that is a quick update, and not what this podcast is about.
Well, kind of.
We
tend to ramble. Come on.
Well, for sure, yeah. I mean, it is nice to give updates and be real with people, and not, and part of that this podcast is being real, authentic, and sharing real life experiences, real life stages. Not everybody can get out and get every run in. Right now, in your season of life, you're able to do that because you start at 4 a.m. I do not like doing that. And it's nice to share that if you run in the afternoons or evenings, your life can get in the way, and that's a trade-off. So,
but that made me think, as long as we're rambling, we're just taking a long time on this intro.
Who's your swimming friend that's going to get mad about this?
No, I'm not even going to, we don't talk about swimming. We don't talk about that.
That's
no
right.
Swimming. But I started to think, I had a friend that texted me yesterday, and he asked about Woodstock. If I was I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do Woodstock. And that means he's going to come and do the 100-miler. So it makes me.
Oh, that friend.
Yeah. So it makes me wonder, things have been going well as far as getting a lot of miles in. Maybe not 100K. Maybe I'd think about a 100-miler.
He's planning on the 100-miler?
Oh, for sure.
Oh, that's cool. Maybe, I've got time. And
Right?
it is Woodstock, which is usually easy to sign up for late.
Yep.
Wow, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I might have to think about that.
And
now.
I have a place there. So as long as
you
yeah, I have it set up already.
Still?
So
Okay.
I'll have the camper there. So
Wow. All right. Well, maybe.
all right, maybe we should get to our guest at some point.
Yeah. Why don't we do that? We have a guest joining us, and I've actually been looking forward to this for a while. Well, first of all, let's introduce Ron Knoll. Ron Knoll, thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, this is great. I've been looking forward to this. When did you first? I think you shot me a message on Facebook or email or something, probably 6 months or maybe more ago. We chatted at some point. It's been a while.
We did. It's been a while. Then I connected with Mitch about seeing if I might be able to be interviewed with regards to my events, and I'm just thrilled to be here.
Yeah, it's been a while, but I was really looking forward to this because I have actually ran three. I've ran 3 races that you've directed: Grand Haven Triathlon twice, and Old Boy. Well, not Old Boys. It was Oktoberfest in Grand Haven.
Did you do
once.
it? Did you do it the same year as I did, or you did different?
Oktoberfest?
Yeah.
I don't remember when we did it. I actually only did the half. Nicole did the full. Nicole did the full.
She outdid you.
Yeah, that's funny. Wow. I'll have to look at when that was. But
do you remember a tree having fallen down before the start?
No.
Okay.
I don't think we had any issues that year other than, which is probably similar for most years at that race, at least when it was in October. It can get warm. It got warm that year. And I remember the one thing I do remember about that race. I don't remember. Oh, you know what? I bet I did Woodstock in September.
It was always in September before.
Okay.
I know that's a play on everything, but I think Oktoberfest really does kind of.
It was a kickoff too.
Yeah, Oktoberfest, ironically, is always celebrated at the end of September.
Oh yeah, okay. Which I guess that makes sense. You're celebrating, I guess, going into October.
Exactly.
That to say, I bet it was because I did Woodstock. And then Nicole did the full, I did the half. I remember getting to someplace on the bike path on Lakeshore Drive coming back. And there's this giant rock. I don't remember where this rock is, but I remember sitting on the rock waiting for Nicole to catch up with me because I didn't care what my time was. And she caught up to me, and then I ran what would be my first loop, her first loop. The rest of my race with her in, and then she took off and continued. But anyway, Ron Knoll, again, thank you for joining us on the podcast. I've been looking forward to this a while because of having done a couple of things. Mitch has ran your races a few times, and I'm looking forward to talking about Grand Haven Triathlon because I think that's an awesome race. But let's jump into first what we like to ask everybody that comes on the podcast. What got you started? Not with race directing. What got you started with running /triathlon /endurance events? Let's go way back. It doesn't matter how far back we have to go.
We're going back quite a ways, over 40 years.
All right.
I never ran. In high school, I played basketball and tennis. And after high school, I played a lot of softball, both slow pitch and back in the day when they had fast pitch.
Yeah.
And then I had some friends of mine that were accomplished runners at Grand Valley and at Calvin College. And they were very, very accomplished runners. And they strong-armed me, jokingly, into doing the Seaway Run 5K up in Muskegon.
Yeah.
And they helped me with my training. I mentioned before, John Adams was a good friend of mine, and Steve Peterson. They helped me with my stride mechanics. They would take me out to the track, and we would do speed work and intervals, and we would run up and down 5 Mile Hill across from the Grand Haven State Park to get me ready for it. And I did the Seaway Run 5K. I finished it, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the environment. I enjoyed my performance. I didn't win anything, but just the sense of accomplishment, like most first-timers enjoy. I loved it. And so then I started doing more running. And eventually this is probably 20 years later, I participated in the Riverbank Run 25K, and I really trained for that. I had just finished going through a divorce, and I had gained weight, so preparing for it, I lost about 40 pounds. And I never broke the 2-hour club, but I ran it in a 7:55 pace. So for this freight carrier, I felt pretty happy about that.
Yeah.
And then that same year, another good friend of mine who is an accomplished runner, he's kind of very well known as the godfather of running in Grand Haven, Tim Morrow. He talked me into doing the Mercy Health duathlon at Duck Lake. This is back in 97.
Okay.
No, 96.
Okay.
And it was just a simple 5K run and a 12-mile bike. That's all it was.
Okay.
Right at Duck Lake State Park. And I finished that, and I loved that. Just
the two disciplines.
Doing the two disciplines back to back. And then I really got hooked. I thought, what's the next carrot on the stick to chase? So then I thought, okay, I need to swim, do triathlon. And I never swam other than swimming lessons. And friend of mine and I, we used to swim across Lloyd's Bayou in Spring Lake. But I jumped in the pool, and at that time I was what I would consider pretty good shape. I thought, how hard can this be? I was running well. I was strength training really well. I did one lap down and back in the pool, and I thought I was going to hack a lung out. I never worked so hard to accomplish so little.
Yeah.
But another
swimming is a different animal.
Oh, it totally is.
Yeah.
But a friend of mine, she was a accomplished swimmer at Spring Lake and then also at Central Michigan. Peggy, she helped me with my swimming, and as a result, I was able to get prepared for the Reeds Lake Triathlon. That was my very first try.
Popular one for a lot of beginners, yeah.
Absolutely, and that was in 97.
Okay.
And I made... Most first-time triathletes always make a lot of mistakes, and seasoned veterans still do.
Yeah.
But I was putting on my wetsuit, and I was having difficulties, and I did a cardinal sin. I had Vaseline with me, so I put some Vaseline on the inside of the legs of the wetsuit to pull it on, which you're not supposed to use a petroleum product on a wetsuit because it'll tear down the composition of the wetsuit.
Yeah.
So then I was able to get the wetsuit on, and then they called our wave to, gave us a 1-minute warning. So I'm running over to the start. I still have Vaseline on my fingers. I'm trying to wipe it off. Try to do that on a rubber neoprene wetsuit.
Doesn't work.
And so I pull my goggles on, and I smear Vaseline across my goggles. I couldn't hardly see. So then I decide, okay, they mark the course really well. They've got their turn buoys out there. But back then, they also marked the course with a rope. And every 50 yards, they had bleach bottles attached to the rope. So I thought, okay, I'm going to hug the rope line and follow the bleach bottles because I could see those. Well, so did 200 other people.
Yeah.
I had people on my back. I had my goggles kicked up to my forehead, and I latched onto a kayak to get calmed down.
Yeah.
And I finished the swim, finished the bike, finished the run, and after crossing that finish line, I couldn't wait to do another one.
Got your taste.
Yeah, I did. And then after that, I just started doing more triathlons and running events over the years.
Okay.
And after...
Stopped using Vaseline.
Yeah, exactly. No, I keep that home now. But at my age, they add up. After so many years, I've done 130 tries. And,
oh, wow.
Never a full Ironman, but I've participated in 10 half Ironmans and finished 7 of them.
Nice.
And another good friend of mine, Todd Anthus, who's an accomplished marathoner, and he wanted to get into triathlon. And at the time, we did a bike ride from his house, and we were sitting in his front yard, and he was also the board president of the Grand Haven YMCA. He said, this would be a great location for a venue for a triathlon. And so he pulled together a feasibility committee, as it were, police, fire and rescue.
What year was this?
This was
roughly
20 years ago, because we're going into our 19th year.
Okay.
for Grand Haven. And we had the state park there, the director of the YMCA, Patrick, and the DNR, Coast Guard, just to see if this would be feasible.
Right.
And the general consensus was, yeah, let's do this. So we launched the Grand Haven Triathlon. Like I said, this is our 19th year now.
And that was your so a lot covered there. I'd love to a lot of questions come to mind. Number one, I am amazed that for your first 5K, you enlisted the help of some really good running friends to help you with a 5K.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't do that.
No, I felt really honored.
You kind of just you figure
Wing
it out. Yeah.
So I was surprised. I'm guessing based on what you played in high school and then even after high school, you're the type that really wants to dive into how to do things well. Like when I run, I go run. I don't think about my gait, my stride, anything until I did it for a long time.
Right. I remember starting out and not like I wasn't an athlete. And I talked about this before. It's just running up and down the driveway. I'm like, I don't know how to do this. And then being an idiot, like, how do you pace?
What is pace?
But then just hacking. And it's like, all I want to do is see if I can run 6 miles. I'm going to sign up for that 10K. That was my motivation. It was not, I didn't do any speed work. My speed work was just try to run.
Right.
But that kind of stuff didn't come until much later. Like even when I ran my first marathon, I didn't do speed work to get ready for that. I was just, all I paid attention to is, can I run enough miles?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, my friends, they had the stereotypical runner's build.
Okay.
Whereas I'm built like a weeble.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I've got a low center of gravity and I'm hauling a lot more freight than they are. So I wanted to make sure that I was doing it correctly to be efficient and also not injure myself. And I felt honored that John and Steve took the time to help me with all of that. But again, we're very close friends too. And they took whatever time was necessary to help me.
But I do love that about the community. Like just last week, we show up at the zoo and there's so many people. And these guys, like the guys that we talked to last week too.
Greg and Dennis.
Yeah, and they, like everybody's welcome. And these guys are in their 70s, and people show up. Young people show up, and they're very gracious to them. And they if you will sit back and listen, they know a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
And I love that about the community.
Yeah, and I was going to say the same thing. That once you're kind of in, not that you have to be accepted, but once you actually realize there is a community and you dive into that community, there are a ton of helpful people that want to just share and go, hey, your stride is awful. Let me help you with that. or not, maybe not that direct, but like saying, hey, if you worked on some things, you could really improve and you wouldn't hurt as much.
Or push you. Like I'm a pain
or
like
push
that.
you. Yeah.
What? Oh, you've done a 10K. How about a marathon?
Yeah. The natural progression, 10K marathon.
I don't think I can do that. Oh, yes, you can.
It's possible. People do it.
And I've seen that also in triathlon, even more so, I think, I'll dare say. My first experience with the camaraderie that we enjoy in triathlon, I did my first half Ironman in 2000. It was a Muncie Endurathon. And Steve Tomboni was the race director. And got through the swim real well, started out on the bike. 2 miles into the bike ride, I get a flat tire on my back wheel. Now, I have 3 spare tubes and all the CO2 cartridges, but they're back in my Jeep.
Oh, geez. Great place for them during the race.
Yeah. My day is done.
You thought ahead.
Oh, yeah. So I start walking back, and a couple bikes went past, and the third bike that came up on me, he says, do you have what you need to fix? I said, no, I don't. He says, I do. Let me help you. I said, where are you from? He says, Kentucky. Now, we're in Muncie, Indiana, so he's traveled a lot to get to the event.
Yeah.
I said, I appreciate the offer, but I don't want to take you out of your race. And to quote, he said, it would be my honor to help you.
Yeah.
And so he gave me a tube, a CO2 cartridge. He held up the back of my bike to change out the back wheel. And then we both went on our way. I found out eventually where he lived, so I was always taught to tangibly say thank you. So I sent him a subscription to Triathlete Magazine, which he probably gets anyway, but I just wanted him to realize I genuinely appreciated that.
Oh, that's cool.
That's what really hooked me to the sport itself. And I could share probably 100 stories just like that over the years.
Yeah, a couple of things come to mind. Number one, I think of Clint, who there are people that want to pull over and help for the sake of helping. And then there's some like Clint that probably want to pull over and help because they can take a break. I'm instantly thinking of Clint.
I hope he listens.
Because, man, talk about a guy that says, oh, that's going to turn red. We better stop for that.
Yeah, the crosswalk is not even blinking yet. Oh, I think that's going to turn red.
We better wait.
Really?
But one thing that we've talked about on the podcast is how, I would agree that from a strictly road racing help versus trail racing help versus triathlon help, there are distinct differences in all.
Yeah.
Road racing, I don't want to say it's cutthroat, but it's like during a race.
It's a lot more serious.
It's very serious, even though it's not.
No, I know.
Even though it's not.
But there are definitely people that take it more serious. I think
for sure.
The opposite is trail racing. It's like they might share a beer with you on the course.
Yeah, that's like this extreme, and then you have road racing that's this extreme. Hey. And I think triathlon falls there in the middle where, there are and probably leans more towards the trail side even, where, man, they are out there. All athletes seem to be anyway, or most athletes, I should say, are out there to see everybody accomplish a goal, everybody get through something. The journey is part of the process to get to the finish line, and ultimately, the more people that get across the finish line, the more people are happy about. I feel like. Yeah. Well, I want to jump into the armed forces. What is it?
Armed services.
Armed
marathon,
services.
Half and 5K.
Marathon, half, and 5K, which. A few things. Number one, this I don't want to say did it technically used to be Oktoberfest?
Yes,
it did technically.
Yeah,
and then it has changed.
I rebranded the event in 2021, and then we still had it at Spring Lake Central Park, but then in 2022 is when we changed the date and the venue.
Gotcha. So let's talk about that just briefly. Number one, it used to be in September. We covered that end of September. As the Oktoberfest marathon and half and 5K.
Yeah.
And whatever, COVID happened. And then you have since rebranded it, moved the date. So now it is
Sunday, May 21.
May 21st. And it is at Grand Haven High School.
Yes. We start and finish right in the football stadium.
That's cool. That's really cool. Not that the old event wasn't cool, but I think I've only finished in a stadium twice. Well, no, I guess more than twice.
Oh, Glass City.
Glass City.
Yeah, and what's the one I did?
Carmel.
I don't.
No. The Notre Dame one.
Yeah. That
Notre Dame.
And they don't
what
have
was that?
It was the Sunburst. Yeah,
Sunburst.
They don't have a full for that anymore.
No, and they stopped finishing at Notre Dame Stadium.
Yeah.
Like that was the huge appeal for that race is you could finish in the stadium of Notre Dame, which was awesome. And I think either they didn't do it anymore or something, but probably people were like, well, I don't want to finish outside or something. But anyway, back to Armed Services Marathon. You're finishing in you start and finish.
Yeah.
So what is I'm curious, can you explain the race route a little bit? Because and the reason I ask is going back to the Oktoberfest. Is it similar?
No, Oktoberfest was in Spring Lake.
And true.
It ran 2 laps. The full marathon was 2 laps around Spring Lake. The half was 1 lap. And for Armed Services, and I'll get back to a story of how that all developed.
Okay.
But the course is you start in the stadium at Grand Haven High School, and we also collaborate with the military members. And you exit the stadium and you go out to Ferris Street, and there's a bike path along Ferris Street, and we take that bike path to Lakeshore Drive. And then you turn south on Lakeshore Drive, and you go down 6 miles and come back, and your half marathon is 1 lap. And you come in back into the stadium, do a lap on the track, and you cross the finish line. And the marathoners are 2 laps, literally the same course. So that way, family and friends and loved ones can see you and cheer you on as you go on your second lap on the journey. And it's also out and back, literally the same course. And then they come in, do a lap on the track, and cross the finish line.
Are they coming in for that first and doing a lap, or no? Where's the turnaround?
The turnaround is about 6 plus miles out on Lakeshore Drive.
I'm sorry. Well, you do the first lap. Are you coming in, doing a lap, and going back out?
You're coming into the stadium again and then going back out.
Okay,
yes.
cool.
Yeah. And they cross the finish line, and then we've got Subway sandwiches and Country Dairy out of New Era. They bring in...
I did see that, and I instantly went, all right, this is a race I can get on board with, because they have Country Dairy chocolate milk at the finish line.
It's their Dutch chocolate milk, which has a fuller flavor to it.
Oh, okay.
I like chocolate milk at the end of a race.
Yeah, I am always disappointed with a race that doesn't have chocolate milk at the end. Ice cold chocolate milk.
Bayshore, they always had it. In this past year, I could not find any chocolate milk.
Yeah.
I was disappointed.
Well,
maybe it's just because I got back so late. I don't know.
was that why? Why am I drawing blank? Amy and are the pace directors?
Amy and Walter.
Walter and Amy. Is that why they brought? I think they brought their own chocolate milk to Charlevoix because Bayshore didn't have it.
Right, possibly. But then Charlevoix did have some, but I think they ran out.
Yeah, but I think they were. They recognized that was a problem, and they brought their own.
We did. They had jugs in
Yes.
there. Yeah, it was amazing. That was good.
But anyway, getting back to Grand Haven.
Well, if you ever go to Meijer, go to the dairy section and pick up a gallon of Country Dairy Dutch chocolate milk. You'll love it.
Okay, I don't know that I've had the Dutch version.
So, yeah, I mean, talking about chocolate milk is fine, but this is perfect because Lewis is a Marine, so like that you could get ready and run that.
Volunteer. Oh,
you could run that by then because you just did a half. I mean, jump right to a full.
Oh my goodness, no!
He needs an entry to spur him along.
My boss said we can figure something out for you.
Is that right? Your boss did?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's remind people.
And I should run with
Ron
him.
is the RD of these races for 20 years. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well,
no, Grand Haven.
Well, for Grand Haven, for the first 3 years, we hired out the race director services. And for the second and third year, we hired Tom Ziebart, who was the founder of the Steelhead Half Ironman and also the Kansas Half Ironman. And after 2 years, I decided to get certified with USA Triathlon as a race director.
Oh.
And so for the last 16 years, I've been the race director for it.
For Grand Haven.
Okay,
yeah. And then sorry, we're jumping around a little bit, but going back to October / Armed Services.
Yeah.
You've race directed that one?
I've volunteered for that one every year since its inception when Todd and Diane owned it, but then I purchased it from them 7 years ago.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. And at that point started RDing it.
Right. And
gotcha.
It was really fun because I wanted to change the brand. And I wanted to do something that honored and paid respect to those that serve our country.
Gotcha.
And I came up with the name and searched it, and the name was not taken. So I branded Armed Services Marathon, Half Marathon, and 5K. And we wanted to integrate all the military branches into the event.
That's cool.
Now, I never served, but I have a lot of friends that have served. I think you might know Kevin Vandergraaf. He's my assistant RD at my events. He's fabulous to work with.
Okay.
Now, you said you served in the Marines. He served in the Army.
Yeah.
But his last tour, he was with the Old Guard. If you know that, that's the unit that guards the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and involved with all the special events. His work ethic is fabulous. But anyway, I asked Kevin, hey, I want to reach out to these military branches. Do they get along?
Well,
And he said, Ron, you'll be amazed how well they get along. They might take cheap pot shots, but ultimately you'll be impressed.
I
and
like
he
to
was
rib.
Right.
I definitely have friends that have served, and it's fun to rib each other. That's the thing.
That's what I've seen, and it's been a privilege. I mean, I have lunch with them on a monthly basis. In fact, I had lunch with them just yesterday. I deal with the recruiting stations in Muskegon, and then the Coast Guard station, naturally.
Yeah, right there in Grand Haven.
Right. So Master Chief Mark Moore, he gets one of his representatives from his office to meet for a lunch. And we just talk about, okay, who's covering what aid stations? Who's bringing in what exhibits into the stadium? And we have a Joint Service Honor Guard. I also wanted to make a targeted donation to support a local nonprofit that provides a benefit to military members.
Yeah, Folds of Honor, right?
Yeah, and it started in Grand Haven.
Yeah, I've golfed in the inaugural and since the Folds of Honor golf outing in Grand Rapids, I don't know, last 7
Grand
years.
Rapids or Grand Haven?
Grand Rapids.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in Grand Rapids. And that's when I learned of Folds of Honor, and it's an amazing organization. I love what they do.
It really is.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but basically what they do is they collect donations, money throughout the year in order to help kids of fallen soldiers basically have college education, essentially, right?
Yeah, they provide scholarships to children and spouses of disabled and or passed away veterans. And since they started in 2007, they've provided 44,000 scholarships to the tune of almost $200 million.
That is awesome.
And they've been referenced and referred to on TV shows like NCIS before.
Yeah.
They are a national organization, and we're thrilled that they started just here in Grand Haven.
Yeah.
And they will be involved with our opening ceremonies. They share their mission statement. They're actually taking an aid station this year and supporting our participants. And all the military members, they take an aid station. They coordinate a Joint Service Honor Guard. In the past, I've sang the national anthem, but I'm one of their board members is a internationally renowned tenor. I mean, he's like up there with Pavarotti.
Okay, so enlist his services.
I'm going to be reaching out to him to see if he'll be able to grace us with the national anthem, and representing the Folds of Honor. And so last year, the Coasties, they trailered in one of their 29-foot rescue boats right into the stadium. They trailered in on one corner of the building. When the event was over, they hauled it out the other corner. They didn't have to jockey the boat. The Air National Guard, they had one of their vehicles all decorated. Air Force did. The Marines, they had their blow-up inflatable there. Yeah.
Inflatable boat, small. That's how they label stuff. It's weird.
And they also had the Sergeant Major's decorated pickup truck there, too. And they all take an aid station, and they decorate it the way they like. And it's been really fun and a privilege to work with them on the entire event. But when we started the event, I know everyone that is in leadership, well, most everyone that's in leadership at Grand Haven schools. I used to insure the school district years ago.
Oh, okay.
And a good friend of mine who's an assistant principal at the high school, Mike Roberson, who's an accomplished Ironman and marathoner, I approached him at his office. I said, I was hoping to change the date and the venue. He says, well, what are you thinking? I said, well, I'm thinking the second to last weekend in May. And my hope was if we could have it here at the high school football stadium. His eyes got big. He said, that'll be like Bayshore. He loved the idea. And I said, now, I don't know if this falls under your bailiwick to work with, or if I need to talk to Tracy, the school principal, or Scott Grimes, the superintendent. I know them all. And he said, no, you'll deal with Scott Robertson, the athletic director. This will fall under his description. So he was out at the time, but I met with him the following week, and he didn't know me from Adam. So I always, when I'm meeting someone new, I always give them my resume. He says, "You don't need that. Mike Roberson spoke really well of you." And I said, "Well, here's what I'm thinking." And I gave him a Google Earth shot of the stadium. He says, "Ron, you don't have to sell me on that either. I used to be the AD at Traverse City High School."
Oh, wow.
He says, "I know the novelty of this. I've watched my wife start and finish in the stadium."
Oh, wow.
And he said, "Whatever you need to do, done. We will do it."
Cool.
And it's a busy weekend for the school because that Thursday they have their graduation, and Friday they host a state regional track meet with like 20 different high schools, and they have to have a rain date. So if it's raining on Friday, Saturday is a rain date. So we went with Sunday of that weekend, and on Saturday by noon, everything is clear. You'd have no clue anything happened. So we're able to set up.
Okay.
It's been wonderful to deal with the school.
Oh, that's awesome. And this is the second year
Yes.
of that
yes,
setup.
at that venue, and date.
Have participation, has it gone up since you moved the date and changed
Yes, it has. Now, in 2019, our numbers were about 450. Now, naturally, we had COVID, and then in 2021, literally, and I mean literally, every running event went down anywhere from 50 to 70%. And we were right there, too. Now, triathlon events, they didn't go down as badly because triathletes, they're a different breed. They've got a lot of money invested in their equipment and everything. So their triathlon events did not go down as bad.
Get hit as much.
Right. So, and in 2021, our participation was like 162. Last year, we were at 270. And right now, our registrations are literally, and I mean literally, trending 3 times greater than what we were last year.
Oh, wow.
Now, I don't expect triple participation, but
the trend is
definitely improved. They love the venue. Convenient parking. I mean, the school parking lot is enormous, so you don't have to park 2 miles away and walk in.
Yeah, that's one of the things you sent over the races and the descriptions, and that's two of the things that stood out to me: chocolate milk at the finish and parking. Because we've talked about that, logistics, getting to the start, all of that kind of thing. And those are 2 big things.
Even Bayshore can be a challenge.
Yeah.
With getting in there.
Unless you know.
You're parking off. I've done the Bayshore half before, and you're parking off the street and walking to the school, hopping on the bus to be bussed out for the half marathon start.
Oh, yeah, for the half. Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. I'm actually, I wish I was, and this is, we talked about this last week. I wish being at a state of endurance where you always have a marathon in your back pocket is a really good feeling.
Yeah. And you could be, you'll be fine by,
how many weeks is that? What do we got? So it's what, February? You probably have it.
May 21, you're basically 3 months out.
3 months. That's plenty of time.
If you could do a half with no training at all, you can
get to a full.
You can get to
in
a
3
full.
months.
Yeah.
Man. So 2 things that make me excited about this: the military. Obviously, I think it's awesome. Thank you so much for making that shift, making that change, and supporting service members. I know I really appreciate that, and I'm sure multiple people do. But for me, just having served and seeing what you're doing with that, just thank you for doing that. And I think that I hope that the marathon grows and flourishes through that. I know when I do Kalamazoo, I think it's really awesome what they do. One of the things they do or did, I don't know if they're doing it anymore because, they stopped and now they're back. But anyway, one of the things they did for probably the last, 4 or 5 years, maybe it was a little more than that, they had a military mile. So for 1 mile, you had basically it was dedicated to anybody that had served. On top of that, anybody that had served or is serving, they had a special bib. So anybody running the race that has served that was a veteran had a special bib, and so anybody on the course knew all the veterans of the race, which I think is really neat. So yeah, anyway, thank you for doing
my pleasure.
What you're doing.
And this year, well, actually middle of last year, the Folds of Honor expanded their mission, whereas now they're offering scholarships to first responders, police, fire, EMTs, paramedics. So we have just Wednesday, I sent an email out to all the various law enforcement agencies and fire departments, EMTs, and fortunately I enjoy friendships with most of the leadership with law enforcement in this area. And
it makes sense after how many years of RDing, you're going to form some of those relationships, right?
And I enjoy friendships with them too. And fortunately, I've enjoyed positive professional experiences with them. I've not been pulled over or anything like that. So
not yet.
No, that's true. Well, I don't want to, and because I just don't want to test the friendship either. But anyway,
you know who I know?
I'll never go
worse,
down
you
there.
know who I am?
No,
that's the worst. Don't ever
there's
say
a
that.
kiss of death. But no, we're offering a 20% discount to all first responders, and we are also offering a 20% to military members as well. But we're having a little inter-department competition where whichever department representative runs the fastest marathon, half marathon, or 5K, they'll receive a special award and bragging rights that they can hold over the head of all the other departments.
For 1 year.
Yeah.
Until next year.
Yep. And I sent out I did a mass email to probably 20 different department heads, sheriffs, and I've had probably 7 responses. Hey, thanks for what you're doing. And we've already sent this out to our staff. And Laura Caprera, she does a lot of marketing on our behalf, and she's connecting with other department heads as well for this. And she actually created a press release so we can get it out to additional media to promote the event and what we're doing with first responders and military members as well.
I ran with Carl Schmitz this morning. And he did mention that, he is a first responder. So
he used to be my next door neighbor in Spring Lake.
Yep, he told me that.
He's a great person.
So he said, remember him too.
Oh, yeah. Well, if he's listening, hello, Carl.
And he said hi.
Carl's a true gentleman.
But I run with Carl almost every morning at 4:45. So he lives a couple miles from me, and we run together all the time.
So he runs to your house to...
He should.
He should. If he only lives a couple miles.
I know.
Well,
slacker.
And Carl,
that's what you'd call me.
He is. I agree. I agree with you.
Well, and Carl also does a lot of fundraising with his running.
He did.
He used to anyway.
Yeah.
For,
Hope for Water, or was it the other one?
That was one, and a couple others. I forget what they were, but he was always looking to have a beneficiary for his running experiences.
Gotcha. That's cool. Anybody? Yeah, and kudos to those that do that, and I think that's amazing. I'm glad that races offer that too, because it's just a perk, a bonus for helping out some. So, like, even if a race doesn't necessarily support something, you can still support it by doing things like that. So, well, that's awesome. I would go ahead. Do you have something?
I was going to say another thing that I wanted to ask is how our volunteers come along, because that's one of the things that we've been talking about. And that's another way to support a race, is to come out there and volunteer, whether you're volunteering at an aid station or the finish line or the start line, however that looks. So
how's the volunteer pool?
Volunteer pool for my events, we're very fortunate. With Armed Services, I mean, the aid stations are covered. And with the Bear Lake Triathlon, which is a week after, we collaborate with the North Muskegon School Athletic Boosters, and we make a contribution to them, and they coordinate the volunteer effort there, and they cover everything on the bike, the run.
Oh, wow.
And so we make a contribution to them, so that's covered. For Armed Services and the Grand Haven Triathlon, I'm really, really blessed to have an individual. Her name is Joni Bennett. she's exceptionally well connected with everyone in the community. She's a pre-K elementary teacher at Grand Haven Schools. Okay. But she also used to be the president of the Coast Guard Festival Committee Board.
Oh.
And she serves at a lot of other events. She's our volunteer coordinator. And when I shared with the athletic director of Grand Haven that Joni Bennett is my volunteer coordinator, he says, we love Joni. And she's connected with everyone, and she just knocks it out of the park with securing volunteers for our events for Armed in Grand Haven.
That's cool. That's good to hear.
And as you know, you can never have enough volunteers either.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And our swim coordinator, Evan, she does a great job securing water safety volunteers for us, kayakers, paddle boarders, everything else.
Cannot have enough of those.
No.
If you're going to have an overabundance of one position, that's the one you want.
Exactly.
Especially as a very inexperienced triathlete myself, going through the steps of one of my goals was always to do a full Ironman distance triathlon, which I did. But I remember Grand Haven was my first triathlon, and I remember similarly having to go up to one of the kayaks, reset, refocus, calm down. So as a beginner triathlete, there is no greater comfort and safety in the water than loads of kayaks and people out there to calm you. So yeah, kudos to her for doing that. And man, yeah, I do want to. That did bring up a question, or just made me think. Like, so you have RD'd from both a typical road race and triathlon perspective. I'm curious to see from thinking the volunteer, but also just race organization. Triathlon has to just be exponentially more, right?
It takes a little more time, yeah. Yeah, because naturally we're covering a larger footprint.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking the Olympic distance. I mean, we're not even a half or full iron. We've got to sprint in an Olympic distance. But Olympic distance, it's a mile swim, 24-mile bike, and a 10K run. And especially in Grand Haven, you swim in front of the state park, and you have to run from the state park back to the Mulligan's Hollow Field.
Yeah.
And it's a good half-mile run. Now, that's not a common distance to the transition area, but it's not unheard of either.
Right.
I've done the Chicago Triathlon 9 times now, and that's also about a half mile to the transition area.
Oh, okay.
Grand Rapids Tri, that's not quite a half mile to the transition area now. Ironman Wisconsin, IMU, that's well over a half mile, and you're running up a parking ramp to get to the transition area. So it's not common, but it's not unheard of.
Yeah.
And then you're biking out 12 and a half miles out on Lakeshore Drive to the county park behind Consumers Energy. And then the run is all on bike paths along the riverfront in Grand Haven. But when you cover those 3 different disciplines and volunteers for all of those disciplines and the enormity of the footprint of the event, and the transition area and everything else that goes with it. Yeah, it does require more. Law enforcement, first responders, all that. I'll go on the thin end of the ice here and say it does require a little bit more.
I mean, it does make sense. So jumping into the Grand Haven just quickly, the triathlon, I will say that was my first. I did it at least twice. I don't think I did it 3, but my first was, of course, every swimmer's nightmare. Water turned over the night before. It went from I don't remember what the normal highs in that time of year are.
Normally around low 70s.
Yeah, and I think it was maybe 68 to 70, something like that. And then the water turned over, and it was 50-something race morning.
I remember that year.
My goodness.
And I and Kevin and another person, we take, during the course of the morning, 3 different times, we take 3 different temperature readings from 3 different locations on the swim course. And on race morning, it was 59.
Yeah, it was cold, needless to say. I was watching, there's Grand Haven has a webcam set up that shoots
From
like
Surf Grand Haven website.
Yeah, it shows you like the water, and so I'm watching the waves. Wavy is going to be things like that. Watching the water temperatures, things like that. And as a beginning triathlete, you just want semi-calm, and of course you're in Lake Michigan, so it's not an inland lake. It's a big lake, but I was hoping for calm and I was hoping for warm because I didn't.
And
I got cold, and I don't think it was terribly wavy. I don't think it was
that
real
year
wavy.
It was quite flat, actually.
Okay, that's what I thought.
It was cold, but it was flat.
That's
it's what
what I
I
thought.
call water ski flat.
It was very calm, but it was so cold, and I had a wetsuit on that was too big. I had Jason's wetsuit on.
Did you pee in it?
I did not pee in it.
Well, I can't tell Jason that anyway.
Warming up the wetsuit.
Yeah, I
would
did
have
not.
helped. That would have helped.
David,
That would have helped.
David did it with me, though. Well, not with me, but he did it that year as well.
He peed in his wetsuit?
Well,
or
he probably did.
Anytime you're at any triathlon event, when you see people standing in the water, kind of looking out at the horizon, enjoying the moment, they're warming up their wetsuit.
They're not just checking out the water.
No.
So I do recall, and I will say, one of the other things that attracted me to that race was the fact that you just swim out a little ways, but then you just parallel the shore. So you're not really that far offshore. So again, comfort level for a beginning, somebody that's not super comfortable in the water, I thought, what, if worst case worse, I can right turn, head into shore,
Yeah, you're basically 100 yards offshore.
Yeah,
and
not
there's a
far.
couple sandbars between the shoreline and where you're swimming too.
Oh, okay.
So what's the cutoff before you can't wear a wetsuit, though? How warm's it got to be? So you don't have to worry about that.
78 degrees. If it's 78.1, then wetsuits are optional, where you can still wear it, but you're not entitled to awards. If the wetsuit or if the water temp is 84.1, then no one can wear a wetsuit, period.
And Lake Michigan's never going to get that warm.
No.
And then the other part of that, too, have you ever had to cancel the swim because of
Lake Michigan being Lake Michigan?
Yeah.
We've canceled it one time because of water conditions, because of the waves.
Yeah.
And another time we had to cancel it because we had to cancel the entire event because that's the year when the windstorms came through.
Oh.
And, Lakeshore Drive was a war zone. Trees were over houses, over the roads. And that storm came through on that Thursday evening. And I'm friends with the leadership at the Ottawa County Road Commission, and they always power broom our bike course for us on Thursday, the weekend of the week of the event. And I was talking to him. He said, "Ron, we're all hands on deck. We're scrambling just to clear roads. We're sorry, we just can't get everything out of the way." And I said, "Now, I know the answer to this question because I used to be a liability specialist in risk management. And would I be able to get my own crew to get trees and limbs out?" He said, "Since you know the answer to that question, I'll affirm it. It's no, because of liability issues." So we had to cancel the entire event that year because of the storms that came through.
And that one is Memorial Weekend.
No, Grand Haven is Sunday, July 9.
Oh, okay.
Bear Lake Triathlon is Memorial Weekend.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I do remember the second time I did it, it was wavy, but I was surprised how much I actually enjoyed that. Now, granted, I had done several since then, but it was a much more enjoyable experience. I actually like the transition from water to the bike. It's a run, but a lot of people store shoes there because it is a little bit of a trek. I think I did it one year and didn't the next. But it's the nice thing about, I don't know, one of the nice things I like about the race is it's usually good weather. It's barring like a storm or something like that, but it's nice out. It's sunny. It's typically, and the run is amazing I love it along the boardwalk.
Yeah.
And I really liked the feel of that race. The finish is fun. They're at the Y. It's still at the Y.
Yes, it is. And since you did it, the run course no longer goes out around Harbor Island. When you did it, you probably ran around that Harbor Island. That was always kind of like no man's land. So now we've made it a 2-lap course.
Oh.
So you run out on the bike path, on the boardwalk.
Yeah.
You cross the 3rd Street Bridge, and you go out a little bit towards where the power plant, well, now it's disabled or torn down, but then you turn around, come back, and just before you hit the drive that goes up to YMCA, you turn around and run a 2nd lap. So it's 2 laps of the most scenic run course around, in my opinion, anyway.
It is a good field running on that boardwalk. You have people like around and stuff, and you're just like running this race amongst them. It's a good field.
Yeah, you're running past the city marina and the storefronts there, and they're out there cheering you on.
Oh, that's cool. Tell us a little bit about the Bear Lake. I don't know anything about that one.
Bear Lake Triathlon, that we're going into our 15th year for that event. It was initially started by our friend Matt Vandersice. It used to be, it would take place in Muskegon Lake, but then the next year he moved it to Bear Lake, which is across Ruddiman Drive, if you're familiar with North Muskegon. Ruddiman Drive is the main road that runs from the city all the way to Lake Michigan.
Okay.
If you've ever done the Sergeant Preston run, that's on Scenic Drive. But it's always the first triathlon of the season, literally, in West Michigan.
Okay.
Anyway.
I mean, it makes sense being that early, Memorial Day.
Yeah, and the water temp is always ranging anywhere from 63 to 72 degrees.
Oh, nice.
It's a shallow lake, so it warms up quickly. And yeah, that's Memorial Weekend, and we'll have somewhere around 200 to 250 participants every year. Because it's the first race of the season, participants can come out, kick the tires, see where they're at from a conditioning standpoint, so they know how to train for their additional races to follow as the year progresses.
And what distances?
We have a sprint triathlon, which is a 750-meter swim, which is 1 lap of the swim, a 12-mile bike, and a 5K run. And the Olympic course is 2 laps of the swim course, 1,500 meters, a 24-mile bike, and a 10K run.
Are those all 2 lap, basically?
With the exception of the bike. The swim and the run are both 2 laps.
Gotcha.
The run course has a height variation of about 1.5 feet.
Oh, wow.
And you're running through nice neighborhoods in North Muskegon. And it's very well supported by the city and all of its departments, police, DPW, Parks and Rec, and the City Hall and the City Council, and volunteers. And it's a wonderful event. I wish I could do the event.
That was one question I was going to ask. Have you ran any of the events at URD?
No.
You haven't been able to?
I never will, because, my concern is, hey, we got a problem. We have an emergency. Where's Ron? Oh, he's out 12 miles out on the bike course. He'll be back in a while. You have to be accessible during the entire event. Yeah,
it makes sense. It's just something I like to ask any RD that we have, because sometimes there are races that get they're either part of a much larger organization that maybe the RD can get a chance to run their own race. Because on one hand, I think, man, how invaluable is that for you to be able to run your own race? How better can you feel out the course, feel out the conditions, feel out the atmosphere than being in the race? Now, I've never RD'd, so maybe you don't need to do that, but I'm just from a racer's perspective, I think, man, you're really going to get a taste of the race if you actually run it.
Well, and
if you can get that opportunity. But I will say, from your perspective, I also think that it's almost near impossible to be able to do.
Well, that's true. And plus, I've trained in all these venues too. I mean, myself and several training partners, we swim in the big pond, during the summer months 3 times a week. And you're right, it's fun when there's some waves, because you can reach out at the top of the wave and all of a sudden you're down into the swell and you're reaching for nothing but air.
Yeah.
And you have fun with that. You get used to it. And I've done the Bear Lake courses many times with friends that lived in North Muskegon. And a lot of us do our bike training out on Lakeshore Drive. We run the boardwalk, so I am familiar with the venues as well.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, it would be fun to be a participant.
Yeah, I think it's too bad that an RD doesn't get to once do their race, because I think I would say the vast majority of RDs never get to run their own event.
No.
Which I think is too bad. But
didn't the race director for Boston run Boston?
He does it the day after, I believe.
Or he follows it. He has quote unquote swept it once. I know that because I think it was the year after the bombing.
Okay.
I think he swept it, or he either swept it or he ran it with his son or something like that. Because I think his son was getting ready to, or is potentially taking over, and this could be way off. I am known to misremember things.
No.
Yeah.
Oh. News to me.
And you're usually good at calling me out.
No, we get emails sometimes too. That's my favorite.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I got, I think there's something like that. After the bombing, I think, or it was in those years following the bombing, he either swept it, ran it, or his son was getting ready to take over, or was looking to take over RD, or filled in, or something like that. But anyway, I think he's done it like that once. But Boston, I mean, it's had a bunch of RDs. Not a bunch. It's had multiple.
Yeah.
So, well, cool. I'm just going back to the armed services one, thinking, man, that would be a lot of fun to do if I could get ready. But even the triathlons, because I've talked to
Clint. You can do the half if you don't want to do the full. Do the half.
Don't play that game with
Mitch won't let me get away with that.
Sorry, I'll raise the bar on you.
Oh my gosh, this guy does 100-milers. He can handle a full marathon.
I do need to get ready for Woodstock. It sounds like, man, that's exciting. I'm excited for him to come out. That'll be fun.
Yeah,
talking about Tony, right?
Yep.
Is that like public?
No,
Should that not be?
I don't know. He was just texting me yesterday. He's like, I gotta get back in shape. So
okay, gotcha. Ron, what I want to ask? This is kind of like the elevator pitch. Why do we want to come and do armed services? We've talked about a lot of good things, and I would just recommend. But I'd love to just ask, hey, why do we want to come and do these races?
Well, it's early enough in the season, and we moved the event from end of September to May, just because, as everyone knows, in September and October, there's so many additional marathons going on. Granted, in May, there's still a few others going on. You got Riverbank, you got Bayshore, but there are not as many marathons and half marathons going on. So that was the other reason why we changed the date. And the environment, starting and finishing in the stadium, we had a lot of people just sitting in the stands watching the finishers come through, cheering their family or friends or others. Members from the Folds of Honor, they're handing out the finisher medals to everybody.
That's cool.
And we've got a strong military presence. And a lot of exhibits from all the military branches. I know this year, the Air National Guard, they're bringing in a couple of their recruiter vehicles, but they're also bringing in their dirt track kit car to the venue, which will be parked inside the stadium. The environment is wonderful. Volunteers, our aid stations are every...
I got to pause there. Do you have pie at your aid stations?
Pie? No. Sorry.
Mitch's thing he ran in. What race was that?
That was at one in Texas. It was Brazos Bend.
Brazos Bend. He ran it. Was that a marathon?
Yeah. It was like a 28-mile marathon, but
that's right. It was a little long.
But
he ran a marathon, and we had planned to do a phone call during the marathon. I wanted to see how he was doing. We were doing the podcast for 6 months at the time, and when I called him, he was going through an aid station, and I could tell he was eating something. I'm like, what are you eating? I'm eating pie. Of course.
It was delicious.
Well, I know our aid stations, at most marathons, there's aid stations like every 2 miles. since our course is out and back, we have aid stations every 1 mile.
I did see that.
And all of our aid stations are equally stocked. I know there's some marathon courses where they're not all equally stocked with the same thing.
Yep.
A couple of them might just have water and Gatorade, and you have to go another 5 miles before you can get some honey stingers or bananas.
So you'll have goo or honey stingers at each one then?
Each aid station will have water, Gatorade, honey stingers, bananas, and pretzel bites.
Okay.
And if we find the weather forecast is going to be hot, like when you did the event at Spring Lake, each aid station had coolers with ice chips in them as well. So we keep an eye on the forecast as well, because the year you did it, I believe the temperatures was touching 90 degrees. And
that sounds about right. It was hot.
And because of our preparation, we had 0 heat-related issues.
But I do like that I always liked that about Kalamazoo, people handing out popsicles.
Oh, yeah, Popsicle Hill.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Well,
they have a Popsicle Hill, and midway up Popsicle Hill, there's usually somebody handing out Oberon.
Well, I know Huntington Bank is a sponsor for all of our events, and they're bringing their, I think they called it their food truck, but they'll be having popsicles. Now, I don't know if that'll be on the course, but it'll definitely be at the venue at the finish line.
Awesome. And is this a fast, I say fast course, but it's relatively flat, right?
Yeah, the height elevation is about 320 feet. So there's no steep climbs. There's just some
rollers on Lake Michigan.
Yeah, false flats.
Or Lake Shore.
Yeah, false flats, rollers, nothing serious at all. And so, I can still run in the course. And at my age, I've often said the older I get, the faster I was. And so,
well, that's true.
And so I enjoy the course. So, and I would consider it as a faster course.
And you have, in the finish line, you have Subway, is that what you said? Subway?
Yeah, once you cross the finish line, get your finisher medal. At our food tent, we'll have Subway sandwiches, Dutch chocolate milk, bananas, granola bars, and we'll see what else we can bring too.
I was just researching a race. Carl was telling me about it, and he got me kind of interested because it's in Pennsylvania, where I haven't run a marathon yet. And what was it? It's called Half Sour, Half Kraut, and then they have beer and like sausages at the finish line. I'm like, that sounds fantastic.
We talked about this?
No, I was talking to Carl about it.
Oh,
so Carl sent it to me, and I'm like, I might be interested.
Well, yeah, because you said that. I'm like, we did? Because that does sound interesting.
Yeah.
This is a race?
Yeah. So at the finish line, you eat some German sausage, but
yeah,
doesn't that sound fantastic?
Well, we won't have at Armed Services. We won't have beer on site. However, we collaborate with Oddside Ales downtown Grand Haven, and you go there with your race bib, and your first beer is on us.
And
then
nice.
Any additional beers, I think they're knocking $1 off per glass.
That's good.
So while we don't have it at our venue, it is still available post-race for all of our participants. The first beer is on us.
If the venue is at the high school, I don't see that it works out very well for that. So
that's true.
They've had quite a few people turn out for it.
Definitely.
Yeah, but
Mitch is more thinking we can't have alcohol at the venue, which makes sense.
As I've said before, I'm a liability specialist, and and the school, they prefer, we really don't want beer here.
Right, because Bayshore is the same way. There's no beer at the finish line.
What I would love to see is to see something put together where your participants can get a free, because I'm thinking, my head just goes to golf. I would love to get a free entry with race entry into American Dunes. You think you can line that up?
I would doubt it. Initially, our hope when we designed the course, and the course is certified as a Boston and New York City qualifier, and it's also a participating event for the Abbott World Marathon Majors as well. But when I went out and measured the course and then submitted my paperwork, initially the hope was to run through American Dunes and run our athletes past the exhibit.
Wall.
That was our hope. And my friend who's on the board, well, I'm friends with several of the board members, they connected me with the manager of American Dunes. And he said, it's a great idea, but as you know, if you golf there, you drive into the Circle Drive and you unload your golf equipment. They take it for you, and then you go into the parking lot. And it's just, as the course man or the manager of the site said, on the weekend, it's like Disneyland here.
Yeah.
It just would be too problematic. So
I can see that.
It wouldn't work out. But that would have been a real touching
my goodness.
facet to the event if we could have done it, but we just can't.
I think you need to figure out a way. I only say that because I think that is an awesome idea. And what American Dunes is doing as well, they're honoring military is pretty special too. I have not had a chance to golf it yet, but I've had a few buddies that were in the military as well have went through it. And I mean, it is tear jerking to go and golf there. Yeah. The process of I don't remember when it is, but there's actually I don't know. It's a
at
presentation.
1:00 they play taps at the event.
Well, then I think there's also something where you get a nickel or something or a penny at the beginning, and then you're supposed to return it at the end or something like that. And there's something special about that. I mean, they're doing something just amazing there. And then there's the wall or the exhibit there
it's
that's
enormous.
Honoring a lot of
you can walk through it, and they've got a lot of veterans displayed on the wall. It shows their mission statement. The logo, as you know, the course is designed by Jack Nicklaus.
Yeah.
His nickname is the Golden Bear.
Yep.
Well, there's a logo with a bear, only it's in stars and stripes.
Oh, yeah.
It's not the Golden Bear, it's in
that,
stars and stripes. And our website has a couple videos with regards to the Folds of Honor.
Yep.
And we also have a video with regards to the venue itself. And Laura Cabrera helped us with those, too.
Oh, nice. Well, I will keep asking if you can figure something out because I think that's a great idea, and I'm glad you went down that road. And who knows, things happen. Maybe something can work out like that. But well, cool. This has been a lot of fun.
I've had a blast.
Thank you for sharing. I would highly encourage anybody listening, if you're looking to do a triathlon in the beginning of the year or in June.
July.
Oh, July.
July 9th.
Oh, I was thinking it was June. July 9th for Grand Haven. Highly encourage both of those. I don't know much about Bear Lake, but sounds like an amazing event leading into the season. And I would recommend, personally, just having done Grand Haven Triathlon, I think it's a great event and worth doing. And then I'm excited for Armed Forces. Are you thinking Armed Forces?
Well, I can fit it in between Riverbank and.
Oh my goodness! So it's
Bayshore.
Riverbank Armed Forces.
It's 2 weeks
Bayshore.
after. It's 2 weeks after Riverbank.
2 weeks,
and
that's plenty of time.
And the week before Bayshore.
Yep.
I should be fine.
What are you pacing at Bayshore?
4:30.
Plenty, easy. Yeah,
Cool.
cool.
Fine.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Ron, thank you so much for joining us. And like I said, I encourage those to check out these races. We'll have links in the description below or in the podcast write-up and on the YouTube page. Be sure to check them out. Any closing thoughts, either of you?
It's been a pleasure to be here and share the events and the causes that we support. For all these years, I've been really blessed with great assistant race directors, coordinators for the run course, the bike course, the swim course, packet pickup, volunteer coordinator, our sponsors, all of our sponsors, dealing with the municipalities and first responders, all the volunteers. I have personally been really fortunate and blessed to have the kind of support that we do to make these events flow as well as they do. And it's hats off to them. I'm just one spoke in the wheel.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing what you're doing with these races. I know I personally have benefited from doing them and can say I've enjoyed them and continue doing what you're doing. And Mitch, any final thoughts?
Other than pie on
Pie
the
at
course.
the aid stations.
Yeah.
Sounds like we need an American Dunes run through and pie at the aid
Yeah.
stations.
What kind
Pie's
of
easy.
What kind of pie do you like?
Oh, you had pecan at the
I had pecan at that race.
at the
but,
one, and you said that was good.
You know, and that's my thing too. Anything with lemon. Like,
oh, that makes sense during a run. Well,
Oh, yeah.
kinda. Banana cream,
sure.
Clint, or no? Is it Clint?
Yeah.
That's his.
Clint makes banana cream pies. They're wonderful.
I think they need to be on a race course. I mean, you eat bananas, so why not? Well, cool. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for joining us, Ron.
Thank you. I've had a lot of fun. It's been a pleasure.
And I look forward to more conversations, actually. So, that's going to wrap up this week's episode. Be sure to check us out on YouTube, Facebook, all the different podcast listening platforms. And if you haven't yet, we highly encourage you to go to YouTube, like, subscribe. You don't have to watch it there, but it is an avenue we're heading to help or to hope to do more on that platform.
Right.
More than just the podcast type stuff. But it also is a great way to throw it on in the background and listen to it and see Mitch's and my ugly face. So, yeah.
Why we're not on TV.
Yeah. That's why it's only a podcast. Well, has been only a podcast. But yeah, that's going to wrap up this week's episode of the I Don't Know Running podcast. Be sure to check us out next time as we share more about what we just don't know.
Until then, happy running.